Mokena has really taken to the skies, and he is definitely changing the city landscape.
Mokena is a maverick. He's dynamic, he's a thinker, he's a maker, he's a creative in business, he's a thought leader.
It doesn't take a genius to look around you and see the inequality and not be enraged, to not actually tremble with anger. Why is it that we have such unequal cities? Why did we have to have apartheid? Why did we have to have colonialism? Why are there rich countries and poor countries? And it took me a while to not to accept it, because I will never accept these inequalities, but to engage with it, and to engage with it with a sense of humanity and with a sense of curiosity, a sense of pride, a sense of possibility that you can be transformative without anger.
Something that I can't explain.
My name is Mokena Makeka. I'm an architect and an urbanist. I practice in the realm of design and creativity. I call myself an urbanist because I'm interested in terms of how cities develop, how they grow, how communities interact, how we can unlock job creation by making vibrant cities and engaging with social cohesion. And I studied architecture at the University of Cape Town, high school in Lesotho, and I grew up in the United States, in New York. My family from Lesotho were posted to the United Nations for a while. My father was an ambassador there, and to the US at another point. My father was a big part of my life, as well as my mother, obviously. But my dad was, I had a very abstract relationship with him, and I think I'd argue that many people of my generation would, you know. So it's only recently that fathers show intimacy or really show a softer side when they engage with their children. So I was part of a generation where, you know, the father's this authority figure, obviously that gives love, but when you're young, it's very difficult to understand how that love is being projected, because perhaps the authority was probably overwhelming. I'm a father of two young girls, 7 and 5. I love my girls. We play all the time, we hug, we kiss. So there's also a lot of emotional intimacy, which maybe I didn't really have. I mean, I think the first time I hugged my father, I was probably 23. And I remember when I hugged my dad, and he stood there with his arms like this because he didn't know what to do. I think the resilience of the apartheid logic, which is to close yourself off from a broader discussion, is something that needs to be broken down. And I've tried to do it by creating public work. I mean, that's why I love public architecture so much. Not because it has the biggest budgets or this or it's glamorous, it's because it's the place of equality. It's not gated. It's a place where people of different backgrounds can interact. So, for example, the extension to the convention center is another example of creating a public building, which admittedly, yes, it has events which one has to pay for, etc., but it's a public building that is in many ways the front face of Cape Town to the world. We are now in Cape Town Station, which is a project that I was involved in terms of its refurbishment for 2010. And it's an incredibly potent piece of urban infrastructure because of its importance to the economy and the fact that over 275,000 people use it daily. So it really is the heartbeat of the city. It's a place where different people meet, different classes, and I'm particularly proud because what I think it begins to do is to approximate this sort of idea about what is the type of infrastructure required for a new country for our developmental state? And what is the role of transport in making people's lives better and safer? One of my recent projects has been to essentially to create a new district for the V&A Waterfront on what's called the breakwater edge. This is really almost the last point of the waterfront that actually touches the sea. And we have there the busiest heli stop on the continent in terms of the number of helicopter flights. What's really amazing about this breakwater district is the fact that we're going to be recreating a new heli stop in this very precinct. This new district will become, you know, another addition to the city, another opportunity for us to interact. And then adjacent to it, we're putting up what we hope will be a fairly substantial high-end hotel. This is our spot and our space. This is where we meet our clients. This is also my brainstorming room. It's also my second office or my first office. I don't have an office space. And essentially this is basically our home. This is where we dream and try and make the projects that we try and push forward for communities. Cape Town is facing the worst drought in over 100 years. So it's up to us now to imagine what is the way out of this? How do we make it rain? And one of the most exciting projects that I have the pleasure to be involved in is essentially a rainmaking machine. And this isn't any folly or any sort of joke, but we're able, using modern technology, to replicate the way that nature creates rain. Okay guys, can we have a quick session on my laptop? I want to show you a new project. Dude, you can join, huh? So, you guys know the Water Cathedral project, right? Yeah. Okay, so you remember that in the front section there's that grid which actually forms the fog, and then you go into the exhibition space, right? Now, one of the things that I haven't told you is that I'm working with a colleague of mine. We're actually going to use that front grid to create rain. And it's a proven technology that's been working in Israel and Jordan and so on. So whereas before it was just a pavilion, now it's actually a rain-making device. So I'm actually going to be submitting it for a tender. I know it sounds crazy, right? You're not making rain. Yeah, we're going to make it rain. We're going to make it rain. But it's actually real tech. And what's really cool about it is that it's one of those few projects where science fiction meets reality. Like if you know, when you say we're going to make rain, like that sounds so crazy. Like 18th century people running around a circle trying to get the rain gods, you know, but we can be the rain gods on this project. And I have the opportunity to present to the mayor and to the councillors something that could possibly really transform the Western Cape. At least. Water scarcity is a challenge for us now. All the indications show that unless we change behavior now, and that day zero, which is the day at which there'll be no potable water, could be as close as March next year. Okay, so team, so that's what we've got on our plates, and an amazing opportunity to inspire the city and really transform water production. So let's be the rain gods, okay?
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Being part of that, realizing that something so abstract can actually be realized and materialized, it's very intriguing. It's exciting.
It's very interesting because not so long ago, all of this stuff was still fictional. But here it is, it's becoming a reality. And you know, within the Sub-Saharan region, we are in a very dry place in the world. So something like this will be a great opportunity, can it? Haholo metse mane ha re sheba ha ile Lesotho ka maloting design tse kang tsena ha re di fumana mono ka nnete ke e tlo tla rarolla mathata a mangata haholo e re neng re na le ona.
One of the primary problems that we have with water is that, as we say over here, it's either in the wrong form or in the wrong place or in the right place at the wrong time. Our current model is basically structured on creating dams far from where the water is actually required, and then sequestering it and actually releasing it across time. if you look at the amount of water that's in the form of vapor in the air, such as in our breath, there's an incredible amount of water that is just waiting to be captured and brought in. And the statistics show that in some instances, one could almost say that this water is 8 times as much as you find in fresh water across the planet. So what we do with WeatherTech, and this is where it's really get interesting, it's essentially the notion of creating a high voltage that is created using emitters on the ground, using solar power. And this high voltage emits ions into the atmosphere. They create a plume of electrical charges, and then these electrical charges are basically the basis for how the water molecules coalesce and come down in the form of rain.
The architectural industry is not for the faint-hearted. If you are not interested in getting things done, you probably won't enjoy working as an architect or working here.
Some people see architecture purely as building, and there's a world of people that do that, but I really believe that it's an art. That is the core of what drives me as an architect. I want you to be delighted when you engage in the spaces that I've created, because I believe that if you're even just a little bit happier, with a little bit more delight, you'll probably engage with your fellow human being more positively. Who knows what might happen from that engagement? And a happy society is a more safe society, and it's a more productive society. So I don't run my practice in the traditional way of I design everything and tell people what to do. I see myself more as a creative director. I provide the concept, I provide the outcomes, and my team are more than welcome to give me solutions and scenarios to achieve the particular outcomes. So it becomes much more involved.
If there's anyone that can do it, he'll be able to do it. He's a bit of a mad scientist / architect, which is quite interesting to work with.
One of the things that Mokena brings to an impact mentality is design thinking. So it's what's the most elegant and effective possible solution to the problems that we face. So not to do something 10% better than we did before, but to do something 10 times better than we did before.
Maybe let's talk about this animation that you've created for the cathedral. So take us through it a bit.
Okay, so yeah, we're just animating how the concept becomes formed.
Because what we've done here is that, you know, the base of the building is reminiscent of a sort of mountainscape, and the exhibition space at the top is like a cloud. And in the front section over here, these are those columns, and this is where the fog comes through that we spoke about, which creates that mist. But this would also be those ionization columns. It would allow water to come down.
So I like the fact that in this office we're able to take such abstract knowledge or abstract notions and turn it into physical forms.
I'm very excited because in the next couple of days I'm going to have the opportunity to present this not only to my peers, but more importantly to decision makers. We can actually really showcase what is possible and create groundbreaking solutions together with the government to deal with the water crisis. And my excitement is about just getting this vision across the line and letting people engage with it and come back to me, challenge me, but looking at that as an opportunity to make a difference. And that's what's keeping me excited. For me, success has to do with a number of key things. One is the ability to be authentic in one's own space and time. The ability to contribute to your community, and that could be family, it could be neighborhood, it could be city. And the ability to look in the mirror every morning and know that you've done your best with the day that has just occurred. I just got a call from Councillor Dave Bryant. He's actually waiting at the Guild for us to present, for me to present our concept to him. So we're rushing there. I've got my team from the office who's brought the Water Cathedral model, so we're going to explain the vision to him. It'll be the first time he's hearing about it, so I'll be keen to see his reaction. But we got to get there as quickly as possible. He is a busy guy, as a matter of fact. You know, last night when we were texting each other, he said he literally had between 9 and 11. The time right now is 9:47. I told him I'd be there at 9:45, so I'm technically 2 minutes late. Brilliant. It's there. The model set up perfectly. Cool. What makes this project so unique, as well as so important in terms of it reflecting our ethos, is that there was no client for this. So this wasn't about the architect waiting for the commission or for the perfect brief to fall in our lap. Good? It's actually set up properly? Yeah, that looks good. I think I'm gonna just grab a seat, just get my nerves down. I don't see him. Oh. Oh, wow, here he is. Very good to see you, Councillor. It's been too long, man. How are you?
Very well, very well. Yeah,
very good, very good, very good, very good.
Excellent.
Sorry if I kept you waiting and we might have missed each
problem.
other just
No
now.
problem.
Okay.
Excellent.
So, yeah, you responded to my text last night, which is on super short notice, and I really appreciative of it.
No worries.
I just wanted to take you through an idea and a new concept, which pretty much relates to our discussions about water resilience and so on. I've been working with some friends with an organization called WeatherTech. And what we're able to do is to create rain. You can dramatically increase rainfall in the area by up to 90%.
Wow.
Up to 90%. Wow. And this is groundbreaking technology. So you can take this technology, you can apply it to one part in the CBD and it would cover the whole city. And a lot of people, when I talk to them about the idea, they're like, they don't believe it. You say you're actually making rain. You're not actually taking it from the ocean and so on. But the production of the rain is actually part of the experience. So, but it's not about some facility in the distance that's remote. This is about bringing rain to the people. And I just wanted to share the idea with you and get your thoughts and your any cautionaries.
Well, I think, you know, being able to create rain would be something that's going to earn you a lot of friends in Cape Town at the moment. And I think this is a fantastic idea, and yeah, let's see how we can take it forward. So Mokena's one of those people who spurs people on to new ways of thinking. The mayor is very keen on pushing the idea of the new normal, which is not only looking at groundwater as a source of day-to-day fresh drinking water. I think concepts like Mokena's can certainly feed into that bigger picture as yet another piece in the puzzle.
This morning was amazing. I had no idea how the councillor would react to what is essentially quite a radical idea to bring rain from the skies using avant-garde technology. There's so many challenges toward being an entrepreneur in this country, and as much as I'll mention them, it's very important that I'm not saying that my challenges are greater than others. In fact, I'm very lucky and I feel very privileged to have had the exposure that I've had in the incredible networks. But be that as it may, there are challenges.
We've had plenty of conversations about how tough it can be in his industry, in certain parts of the country. But because we come from a space where we've got knowledge of self, we know what we need to do to fight the power. If we draw from hip-hop, he carries that with him always. And he will fight, and he does fight.
One of the things I regret most, I remember having an argument with my younger brother, and we were debating what were we going to be. My younger brother was 7 at the time, and he said he wanted to be an inventor. And I practically dissed him. I said, what are you talking about? What do you want to invent? Everything that needs to be invented is already here. And he said, I want to be an inventor. Then I challenged him. I said, so what do you want to invent? He's like, I don't know. And then my mom stepped in, and my mom's like, you know, how dare you say that? Now, I look back at that conversation and I'm realizing that was the worst possible thing that I could have ever said to my 7-year-old brother, that he could not be an inventor. And it was even worse that when I challenged him and I said, what is there that he wants to invent? And he couldn't answer, but I didn't see the opportunity in that. So I'm glad that I've taken It's taken me a while to get to this point where I've been able to transcend that self that saw the world as a small place, as a limited place, as a place where there's a role for what I need to do and what and that space of possibility was very small. So I would encourage the 10-year-olds out there to seize the world, and to invent things. These are not all for me. By the way, I'm not an alcoholic. I've got some friends from the office, other people coming in later on from out of town, drips and drabs. They won't all arrive at one time, but that's how it is. You just go with the flow and see what happens as the night unfolds. When I was involved in the World Cup, essentially as an architect, designing Cape Town Station, and we helped put together a strategy to get the station to work, and it was all fun. And then I was called into Brazil by some colleagues on that side because Brazil had also won the World Cup. So they wanted to learn, for their World Cup what happened in, 2010. So I went there as part of two groups to basically advise them on how do you transform your city. But the confluence with that whole trip is that this happened literally 3 days after I buried my father. So I rest in peace, I put him in, we had our family ceremony and so on. And so I went to Brazil as part of my healing process to escape, the pain that I had with me. There's yours. Yeah, salute, salute.
He's extremely flamboyant, very energetic, but the most respectful gentleman around town. I mean, he's straight up to the point. He's not scared to ask for advice, but at the same time, he's not scared to give advice.
So, my late father was the ambassador to the United States and Mexico. And I remember when we had to come back to Lesotho because he was called back to go, he was recalled. And we're flying into Lesotho, and I'm looking out the window as a young boy, and I'm just seeing this scorched landscape, like no trees, nothing, arid, dry. And it was quite a scary thing for me. I was wondering, what is this? So I say to my dad, I said, why are there no trees? And he says, well, there's so much poverty that people, they cut down the trees so that they can actually cook and so on. And that struck me, and also was my first exposure to the extent of poverty that you have in Lesotho, and in fact many parts of Africa. So that always sat with me in quite a heavy way.
Mokena is someone with not just an imagination, but the network and the technical capability to back up that imagination. But I think that what Mokena can teach us is the power of dreams.
What makes me happy is seeing other people happy. I know that sounds very glib, but honestly, I derive happiness from seeing somebody smile, laughing, having fun. I generate my happiness from others, and that's really where it comes from.